I'm not sure that's what we want to do. I thought we are against those. I'm glad I grew up in that time without cell phones. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back in history.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's no point really. So we could actually get started. There's no reason we can't start. So anyway, thanks for joining something that hopefully this will be a little bit different. It'll be something that we can all learn from. Actually, the main point of this is to make sure that we let our two special guests talk. Because we've got some questions, some from everybody in our group, some directly from me that I've gotten previously. And then I'll go through a little bit of, the purpose and the roles. I know you guys got just a little bit of information. The speakers got a little bit more. This isn't meant to be super formal, but it is recorded. So I guess it's going to be maybe a little bit more formal. So you can see I've already got it recorded. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I put together sort of a outline to all this, and we'll see. Now make sure you guys, can everybody see everything okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Jesse can, so that's good. Plans and conversions, it was just to come up with the name. That's sort of the overall theme. And we'll go through some of the different, questions that I think will be really good for because we have the two, and I think most of you know everybody there, but by the end of this, you will know everybody hopefully super well. And the guests that I selected are they're probably, to me, would be the best to give us a good overall view of plans and conversions, how we go about it, how we don't go about it, how we go about training. There's a lot of different things. And again, it's food for thought. We can all talk a little bit during or afterwards, no problem. And feel free to stop, just maybe don't stop too often. We want to keep it going. So this is going to have landscape architects and landscape contractors viewpoint. The purpose is the overall, during our meeting, we're looking to cover public agency type of projects and private projects. We will not be reviewing corporate accounts this particular session. In the future, Nancy Oliver, which she's always doing anyway, will review corporate accounts, sort of like best practices at a later date, which I think would be helpful just to have her on. And I know Kevin and Carlos, have you guys met her before?
I'm not
No.
sure. Don't think so.
Yeah. So anyway, she handles all of our developer type of projects, conversions, that type of thing. But that's why I wanted to just keep it at this time to public agencies and private projects.
When you say corporate accounts, what are you referring to?
Corporate accounts, and most of the cases would be like a developer, it could be Lennar, something like that, where we're involved in either keeping spec or it could be actually changing spec, because we'll have agreements, special agreements with those developers.
Oh, like tract homes.
Yeah. So
is that what it is? Housing.
Is it what?
Tract homes.
Tract
Housing.
homes.
Housing development.
Yeah, that's I think you usually see that in. Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's
then,
also the land development around those communities too, not just the individual homes. It's just the land.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just that for me, in our industry, corporate accounts, it's a whole different thing.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, and also it's going to be common areas and anything else that goes with that. So we're heavily involved in those throughout the US, but especially in California. But anyway, we won't have to worry about those. So it's another whole, it would take actually quite a bit of time to go through that. And I know I've already spoken with both you guys, and it seemed like this would be a better way to go. First off, before we get to Kevin, I thought it would be good if we could all at least introduce ourselves would be good. I think everybody knows me, Mark Hall, Area Spec Manager for Northern California. Just give your name and your position, and we could just walk through, maybe start with Jesse. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, my name is Jesse Carlos. I cover the Central Valley, so Visalia all the way up to Lodi, and I am a contractor account manager, similar to what Ed does, just out here in the Central Valley, or the South Central Valley.
Great, great. And Ed?
My name is Ed Perez. I am a contractor account manager in Northern California, based out of Roseville, California, Roseville, Rockland, California. And I work with all the big players contractor wise in the area. And so with that said, I do want to take a quick second to say massive thanks to Kevin and Carlos for joining us here. It just means a lot that you take a little bit of time to kind of help us out so we can be better, so we can bring more value to both of you guys. And so your input is beyond appreciated, more than you know. So we want to just figure out a way to be better partners for you. So thank you.
Great. And Sylvia?
Hi, my name is Sylvia Gurian. I'm a distributor manager for Northern California. I work with all the distributors in well, from the Bay Area to Central Valley to Reno area.
Great. And I think Chris?
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Chris Paget. I'm a regional manager for Rainbird, and I have a team of 5 area specification and public agency account managers across California and the Southwest. And so I'll echo what Ed said. It's much appreciated for you guys to jump on here and share some time with us, as our goal is always to find better ways to interact and add value, as he mentioned. So I appreciate you guys' time as well. Thank you.
And I think Nate, if you're still on.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm traveling from site to site as of right now, but my name is Nate Acosta. I am a water conservation manager covering all of Northern California, Northern Nevada, and the Pacific Northwest, specializing in commercial control and commercial products overall.
Great. And I think Luke's on, Luke Timmons. Luke, we're just making introductions if you just came on.
Yeah, little technical difficulties. Luke Timmons, Regional Sales Manager for Central Control in the Western US. Hello, everyone.
Thanks. Anybody else that I missed?
Yeah, that's it.
I think we got it. All right. So I wanted to start, if you guys could still see all that, I wanted to start with Kevin Leamy, and then go ahead, sort of start with design, just the way it is, start with design, and then we go to construction. On this part of it, Kevin, if you've got anything additional that you want to add. I just went to LinkedIn and you said everything was correct, so that's what's on here. ASLA, a lead AP, which he could explain more if you guys want to know more about that. He is actually the vice president at Furman Leamy Land Group. Great team. They're definitely diverse. They're all about education. I can say from my end of it, they're very open to trainings, especially live ones. And then, you know, he is a licensed landscape architect, California and Nevada. I didn't know Nevada, but that's great. Lead accredited professional, California certified nursery professional, certified landscape irrigation auditor, which is nice because not every, I know many landscape architects do not have that. Specialties and parks and recreation, office, retail, mixed use, commercial, planting and irrigation system design with focus on water conservation and sustainable practices.
That's a whole lot of words that I'm not sure say a whole lot, but yes, been in the area for quite a while up in Northern California. Started up here in '98, I think it was. So been doing this a while. And on the design side, my first firm was a design build. So we got a little hands-on with the construction side of it, which is very helpful. And we try to get every young college graduate out in the field because that's the only actually way they can see how anything goes in the ground. It's, you know, once you see a trencher and see some of the things, it starts to make a whole lot more sense on irrigation, as you guys are all aware. So yeah, happy to be here.
Great, thank you, sir. And Carlos Valencia, he happens to be related to somebody, I don't know who that is, but estimator, project manager, and he works for Maniglia Landscape Incorporated. The other thing that's great, well, he's only worked for them for 3 years, but also with Jensen Landscape for 23 years, which is pretty incredible these days to be at one place for that long. So he's just like Kevin. Actually, I picked, I don't know why, but 2 fun people that like to kid around, but they're also very serious about what they do. So it's sort of a nice combo. So I'm going to go to some more stuff for now, get into with Kevin. We already went through an overview, so I'll let that go. Here's some of the different questions that I have. Just feel free, answer whatever you think it is. It's all recorded, so we can get back at you really quickly if we want to. What is the difference between how you specify public agencies versus private jobs?
Well, as I think you guys are probably all aware, public agency, so any city, municipality already has a list of what we can use. So it's pretty much already specified for us what we're putting on irrigation wise, even play equipment, parks, all that kind of stuff. So really for us, the first question we always ask on the new project is who is maintaining it? Who is going to be, owning this in the end? Because we do a lot of, you're talking about developers, right? We do a lot of developer work. We've done almost all of West Roseville, Whitney Ranch. We're doing a bunch of stuff up for Elliott Homes up in El Dorado Hills, south of Folsom, all that kind of stuff. But it's so yes, we're working for the developer, but it is who the end maintenance or who the end owner is going to be. And when it's all going to be city maintained, that means it's all have to be designed to their standard. So we have no say. It's here's your list of products, go with it. It can be massively frustrating. We have tried for years. I think as you guys, some of you might be aware, I know City of Roseville tried, I think maybe the last few years, they did a whole test thing on subsurface irrigation, decided they didn't like it and decided that's not something they're going to use, which is fine, but there are obviously challenges when you get into certain situations with small planters, things like that. Then what are you doing to meet the water efficient landscape ordinance? So it creates some challenges for us. I believe they are a Rainbird heavy on the emitters that they use, so spray heads, rotors, that kind of stuff, but they are a CalSense controller. And we've tried for years to try to change that around, but that doesn't really work. So yeah, on the public agency side, we really have no say. Private jobs for us, we as a firm do not have like a set, we're only going to use Toro, Hunter, Rainbird, something like that. We really try to see what that site needs and specify based on that. So it can be, for lack of a better, if it's something that we're using small spaces for road, I guess, even broader picture at this date or time in kind of the whole water conservation world, we're really using 3 different emitters, right? We have bubblers, subsurface, and probably rotary. That's really almost every project what it's coming down to. There's just not a lot of other ways. The old spray heads are long gone. There's just nothing we can really do with that anymore. So, it really is, what does that job need? If it's something where we're using subsurface on slopes, well, your guys' drip line holds up, to 10 feet or stuff like that. So we're really looking at what the nuances of that job is and going that way. Another big thing right now is water conservation. So we get lots of basins. And in some ways, using your guys' rotary nozzles works really well because it gets a little bit more water down quicker. And as we know, like the MP1000, when you get into smaller spaces, it just doesn't turn, it doesn't work well. So we like using your guys' rotary nozzles for that. But when we get in the basins, we actually want that water probably a little slower landing on those basins so that it doesn't just run through, because that water, that median's already made to drain so quickly, sometimes a little longer get watered down. So I think this is a long way of saying we really try to pick the right product for what that project needs. And that's how we go about it. We're not just, oh, our standard is this, pick those items, throw them on a project and move on.
Perfect. You take a lot of care. So that's great.
Try to.
Yeah. So next off would be, why do you keep your current specifications? Like, it's probably for some of the same reasons that you just talked
Yeah,
about.
I mean, a lot of that is the same reasons. It's, we are designing the whole thing. We do use LandFX. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that. It's an add-on that goes over the top of AutoCAD. It was developed by some Cal Poly grads, and it's very helpful. It works really well on the irrigation side and making some stuff easier, getting plans. But on the other side, and what's really nice is it has all preloaded with all the products. I think you guys probably do a good job of keeping them up to date with what's coming out. So if you go look at heads, it has every head from probably every major manufacturer that we can choose and then use. So that's very nice to help with some of those things. But yeah, I mean, we take a lot of time setting up our irrigation plans to make sure both that they irrigate the way we want. We have to meet watering windows. We have to meet the WELO calculations. There's a lot that goes into that. It's not as simple as saying, oh, we'll just throw this on and it's going to make it work. The old days, it was a little more cavalier, but since, probably 2010, it's gotten really restrictive. And as you know now, it's even more restrictive. I mean, they're just basically at this point, they're trying to get turf out of California, I think is where we're going with regulations. It's the way they're written, they just want no more turf. So, which is difficult.
Perfect.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of it. So yeah, we put so much care into it. It's hard to then go quickly in and change something.
Yes. So why would you change your completed specifications?
I mean, I guess if there is a reason that's come up that makes sense, we would go in and make some changes to that. But for the most part, I mean, we really are, once we've gone into it and designed it out the way we think makes the most sense, unless there's some parameter change that we weren't aware of something drastically like pressure or things might change it, we probably would not change our spec that much.
Great. So that goes back to really where you started. That you're going to put in the right product for the right application, and then you're going to stick with it.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Why we change is when the city comes back and says, no, we don't use that anymore. Here, use this now.
So what type of trainings give your office the best value?
I think obviously COVID was tough, but I think a lot of hands-on. I mean, I talked on it a little earlier about, trying to get people out in the field. And if you're not able to do that, actually getting them seeing something working. I mean, Mark did a great presentation out in the front on the lawn in front of our office where he had set up a bunch of different things for drip tubing and how to water trees and do all this kind of stuff. And we had an intern at that point and a lot of younger staff. And there's nothing that beats hands-on looking at stuff. So yeah, that is the best value, is having them look. You can come in and go, oh, here's this product, this product, this product. But unless you try to either put it together or see it working, it just doesn't make sense.
Good to hear. Do you prefer live trainings versus dead ones, I guess? So.
No, I understand over computer, that kind of stuff. It's just such a better flow. And like I said, just a hands-on portion of it is way better.
Okay, perfect.
But that's not always your choices. I understand that, right? There was a time where, we didn't have anybody in the office and no one was going to offices. So that's just, what can you do?
Does virtual training work for you? Or we've talked about, I think, like a hybrid approach where you're doing, in-house and outside?
I think it can. It just depends on where your office is knowledge-wise.
Okay.
Times when, there were some years where we've had everybody have been here for probably 3+ years. Something like that works well, right? I mean, everybody's kind of already up to date with how the major components and everything works. It's more of just new products. Oh, hey, like the new drip line header, right? Sending something like that out. So we understand how everybody understands the subsurface, the nuances of that. And then, oh, here's a new product that works really well. Yeah, I mean, seeing it's cool, but if you just kind of a hybrid virtual for that would work just fine. But when you have a lot of younger staff, it's,
better hands-on
is by far the best.
Yeah, very good. So what are the best ways for us to proactively change specification? And I'm thinking with everything you said, I'm guessing that's on the front end, but it might be on the back end or.
Well, it's
how-
definitely,
Can I ask a quick question? I think kind of related to this. And I think like as I really appreciate everything that you're saying, and it totally makes sense. And I think like one of the, I think like on a very practical, like today where we're at with the current market conditions over the last few years with COVID, and there's just been a lot of supply issues from every single manufacturer. And it's kind of a nightmare. And so, when I'm on the front end dealing with the contractors that are, having issues with like not being able to get this product or that product. And that's where I'm kind of dealing with on a regular basis. Hey, what's the crossover for this product from your competitor? Do you have this available or that? I think like what is really, I think what I would love to know is, what is the best approach that you have, that you would recommend to us on how to go about doing that? I think from
no, that's a good question, and I appreciate what you're coming from, because we do hear that, right? I mean, obviously, certain people, there was, we can't find any drip line, or we can't find any rotors, or we can't find any valves, right? It just wasn't happening, and so some of that stuff makes sense. I think for us, we rather have a conversation early where it's brought up, rather than in the submittal phase. All of a sudden, it's just we get a submittal and it's not what's on the plans. There's no description. There's no reason why. There's none of that. And you're just like, okay, is the contractor just trying to save a penny? Is he, have some agreement? What is that reasoning why? If we could be told the reasoning why, I think it works well. And it also depends on the product that's going in, right? I mean, if it's a valve, that's pretty easy to swap out. But if we get like we were talking about with rotary heads, right? I mean, if you're using an MP, 1000 half, and it's at, 0.25, and you're using one of your guys's, RVAN 14s or RVAN 8s, and it's at 0.31 or whatever those are, it's not as simple as saying, yes, you can swap this nozzle out for this nozzle, this body for this body, because if those GPMs are changing, there's a lot that gets into that down the road as well. So that's when it starts to get a little more challenging to look at those crossovers. And then for us, it's frustrating because, we're moving on to the next project and moving down that road, right? And so if it's already been into the construction phase, we bill out for that, and then all of a sudden we're making a lot of changes to it. That's money that's coming out of our own pocket, really, unless there's some agreement with the owners, but that usually is never looked at on that end, right? This is a contractor during construction with us kind of thing, how to make that work. So that's kind of the challenge. So to answer the first question, yes, it makes sense to try to do it up front. If there is something, let us know, right? And so that's like working municipalities. They have a list. Work with I know a lot of those home builders do have lists of their preferred list of what they want to do. Have those things and make sure that they get distributed out to the landscape architect as part of the process when we're starting, to say, hey, this is the products we're looking for. Or, we're both in that weird world of not always knowing when certain things are going out to bid and what those things might, challenges will be. We see it all the time with plant material as well. That's a huge one for us where, if it's designed to go in but all of a sudden it gets delayed or this, and all of half the trees aren't either mature enough to sell or they're not ready or these kind of things. And so there always is that changes. It's just trying to figure out what's the best way about it. But I understand totally that, especially with the supply issues of late, that's a challenge.
Right. And so, for me, it's just, I want to figure out a way, like I said earlier, to work better with you and the contractors, and just that three, it's like a three-headed communication, deal.
Yeah. And that's what I think the biggest one is, the communication, giving us a reason why they're asking to change, not just a submittal with a change on it.
Okay.
Heads up, like, hey, this is what's happening. What do you think? Before they send in the submittal could be helpful as well. And the best thing is to provide if you're doing that, what's it crossing over to, right? Provide some substitutions. Don't leave it all on us to say, hey, we need to change this to Rainbird, figure out what it is. Say, hey, maybe we can change this to this, this to this, this to this. And that helps streamline a little bit of that as well. And it's easier for us to look at and go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Do that.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, so do you work with many projects that try to change specs through submittals?
Oh, we kind of just talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
For the most part, not recently, because we do so much public work that it's all just, there's nothing we can do to make those changes. So that's already kind of set. So we haven't done a lot of changing it through. We see that more actually on kind of site furnishings, that kind of stuff. I think a lot of the contractors, it's easier for them because I don't think they want to take on some of that responsibility as well, right? That's our stamp on a plan. I'm responsible for what that irrigation design works or doesn't work. If we go out and it's changed a bunch and they're looking at it going, well, wait a sec, it's a lot easier to go, I have no idea. You know, it's not to say that you're
Right.
playing the blame game, but it's just, there's a more interpretation open to what went wrong.
Cool. All right, number 10, your last question. Sounds like David Letterman or something.
There you
Okay,
go.
once you have designed a project, what is the benefit for you to change it? Are you compensated in any form? And you did mention that earlier. I think that you're not. And is it a lot of extra work for you to make a change?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there's a benefit unless I said a different parameter came up because we are responsible that we find out about something or a better product comes out. I mean, we've had projects as well that have sat on shelves for 4 or 5 years. And by the time it comes back around, right, oh, that controller that you spec'd or this product that you spec'd is no longer even available, made, something like that. So there's times like that where it makes sense to do it. Compensated, unless it's something from the developer, they're asking for us to really change out a whole thing. Usually there's not any compensation in that. And then the work level is just depending on how big the project is. I mean,
Okay.
sometimes if it's just, like I said, changing out some heads, a controller, or not heads, but like valves, controllers, some of that kind of stuff, that's pretty easy. Even probably subsurface can be pretty simple to change out. If you can find the right, you know, similar spacing, flow, GP, all that stuff, that's pretty easy. It's really when you start to get into the rotors and the spray heads that can be a little more work, just depending on how big those systems are and what the parameters coming in. I mean, if you're right against your watering window, that can be a challenge. If you have low GPM or something coming in and you're trying to, you know, figuring that out, that can also be a little bit of a challenge. But it's just, and that's all stuff we look at the front when we're picking the product. I mean, we have a lot of Excel spreadsheets and everything that kind of helps us figure out, we need to put down, you know, X amount of water in this window. What's the best product to do that?
Perfect.
Do that first, not last. We already know when we're getting into it, what we're using to make us to meet the standards versus the opposite way around and hoping it meets at the end when we put stuff down.
Awesome. So what we'll do, if you can hang on, Kevin, we might have a couple of little questions, but I wanted to move to Carlos and get that perspective, and then we'll get to the point where we can wrap it up. All right. Thank you very much. That was perfect. That was great. A lot of good info. And also, just for the heck of it, for a little Furman advertisement, I threw a plan on here that obviously has quite a bit of Rainbird on there, but we talk about legends, and you know, that's obviously that's a big deal to us, getting those changed, but hopefully proactively, like you said, as far as doing, whether it be training or providing the right specs or, you know, something new, whatever that is. But I appreciate personally the type of, you know, plans that you guys do, a lot of integrity.
Thank you. I do have a question for you guys, just randomly before we move off of it. A lot of times we'll put in our plans to contact your local, you know, Rainbird rep on different things. Do you guys ever get calls from contractors on stuff at the beginning parts of projects like that?
I do with controllers probably more than anything, but other than that, no.
Okay. Just curious.
I have seen, I think in the past, we used to have a guy, I don't know if you ever met Noe Cruz, who was our water conservation manager, central control specialist. We've seen his name on a couple of things here and there. You know, that guy's no longer here, but, you know, somebody like Nate Acosta who probably knows these controllers better than anybody in the local area. You know, I think there's been benefit to that, and so I have seen it.
Yeah, I'm just curious because we do it sometimes and I don't think anybody ever calls and I'm like, is this really helping? I mean, you're right. Controllers is probably more than some of the other stuff, and there's times when, especially when you're starting to come out with new things, right? When the first subsurface and a lot of that stuff was coming out, is contractors were lost. I mean, and it's like, okay, we're trying to get you a little bit of this, and it just, you know, you get on the site and they seem so good. It's like, well, we try to help you with try to offer solutions. But
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, typically we're doing, I mean, what I like to do is you do the 800 number and then you also put on the name of the rep. That way, if they move to another territory or they're no longer with the company, whatever, right, you still have a way to get a hold of somebody.
Yeah.
So it's, I think sometimes that's helpful, but it's not always done. So
no, I was just curious.
yeah.
Yeah, the other product line would be pumps.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Always have people, somebody's name on there for pumps, because nobody knows what they're doing with pumps. Generally speaking, right? So that's a key component.
Makes sense.
All right, well, we'll move on to Carlos. Are you ready, Carlos?
Yes, I am.
I know. Okay, so on the contractor side of things, and you can tell you've been doing it for a while and doing it for a while from the estimator side too, which I think is huge because, you know, he's going to have the kind of information hopefully that we need. Could you give us a quick overview about yourself? Anything that I missed?
Nothing, like you said, I've been doing this didn't realize it till you actually posted in there. For over 23 years, I have worked pretty much in all the large projects, headquarters that you know in the Bay Area, the Apple, Microsoft, the Googles, the HPs when they were starting, that now is the Apple headquarters. So I have worked with and still working with the majority of the landscape architects that are here, your SWAs, DESs, and all that, which a lot of them do not have an in-house irrigation department. They use the irrigation consultants, which they do. So a lot of the times the architects themselves, the landscape architects, have no clue about the irrigation components of it. It's always the consultant. So even when we have questions, they always go to all those other companies, not the landscape per se. Again, I've seen it all. I've seen all the changes from, like Kevin said, it was much different before. Now there's a lot of more specifications, product information, and back to the thing of you guys putting names on it to contact. We really don't contact anybody except when they list someone for the controllers and the pumps. And more than getting information about the product is that we think that they're the only ones that can provide the price for that product. So we want to make sure that they are giving us the correct price, especially for controllers and pumps that have so many options, and call out model numbers that we don't understand. So we definitely call them to make sure we're getting whatever is being specified on the product. I will definitely go into other more details on that, but just to let you know, it's definitely a whole different monster on the contracting side than the maintenance side, which they are the end users. And I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but being very bluntly, we really don't care what product gets specified or not. What we want to do is kind of like the developer, get it done, get it installed, pass inspections, and we're done. If we're not the maintenance company, the end user per se, so we don't look a lot into the product details or what we're getting installed. So it's just give us the product. The architect already did all the homework and know what they're doing, and we just install it per plans, try to get out of there as soon as possible. That's pretty much it. But
Carlos, Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yes.
Are there, I'm sure, you know, you've got a lot of experience here, and there has to be times where, you know, not everybody is as thorough as Kevin and the team is, and you might run into plans where, you know, you bang it in the ground, but then you go back and you're like, man, we really should have reviewed this. This is not a solution that's going to work for the end user. Like, and does that ever come back to kind of bite you guys? And then they come back and say, well, why did the contractor do this? And I know, obviously, then you can go to the specifier and say, well, we just did what we were supposed to. But ultimately, it's a team, right? It looks good or bad for everybody involved. So I'm curious, you know, because it can't always just be the quicker we get it in, we move on, we go. Like, there has to be some quality control there too. So
there's definitely quality. Yeah, there's definitely quality control, and then also a team, especially because we're the experts on it. One of the items that came out originally when the bioretentions came out, the irrigation that was happening, a big area, and then you have a bioretention in the center. It was the same control zone that was irrigating it. Well, the soil percolates at a different rate, and we were seeing that if we put a timer on one spray head, the water in that area and the bioretention was percolating too fast. So we kind of do it slow. You either kill one plant or the other one, and that's one of the items that we brought up. I said we need to put it in two different control zones so they work better. Those things like that we will definitely bring up. The other thing is putting trees on the same zone as a spray head or other shrub areas. They require different water volumes of it, different timing. Those are the things that we'll definitely bring up. But as far as products themselves, we don't. We as you can see, I mean, on when you get to the other questions, I'll kind of explain why. But as far as the overall function of things and for our plants to survive and thrive, we will definitely bring opinions, or we will request a response on that information, but not product. We will never send saying, well, this product is better than this one. We rather want to use this one. It's more of a overall function rather than product specified.
Okay, great. So what is the difference between how you bid a public agency job versus a private job, or is it the same?
No, they're very, very different. And like Kevin mentioned before, public agencies already have gone through a lot of processes. Most of them have their what they call in-house maintenance companies, or they do their own maintenance. Stanford being one of them, and all the cities have their maintenance department, either be a third-party contractor or whatever it is, but they like to keep, because they're the end users, they want to have a stock of the same product. They don't want to have different brands being used. So if they're already stuck in their head or a product that they use, they don't want to change anything. They don't want to have replacement parts for one brand and another one. They want to have just one. So personally, we do not bid public jobs unless the economy is really, really low. They are very hard to work with. They are very specific on things. They're very problematic. They have many chains of commands that they're just headaches. The other thing is that they used public money or bonds. And for that, you go into the prevailing wages and Davis-Bacon wages. So they're very different. We do not change anything when we're bidding public projects. They're very specific. And because we are competing and they're blind bids, we have to bid exactly what's on the plans, even if we know that it will not work, even if we know that it doesn't, like Chris was asking about it, whatever's on the plans, even if we know that it's not working, we have to bid that, because the other customers or the other contractors bidding it will bid exactly the same. And I don't want to outbid myself by putting things that actually work. And when it's not working, that's when the submittals come in. That's where we will ask the questions. And like Kevin said, he'll prefer to be done before the submittal process. But if it's a public agency, that will be the only time that he will get to see it. As far as private jobs, you have the option of providing what we call value engineering or options, or like, hey, this is what you're specifying on the plan spot. If you use this, this is less expensive, or this is it's not available. We cannot find that, but here's the cost if you change to this. It's more flexible. It gives us the opportunity to provide different options. Public agencies is just sealed envelope. Give me a number. If you miss anything or you didn't meet it per specs, you're liable pretty much for everything. So very, very different.
Yeah. Okay, do you keep with the designer projects, or do you keep basically their original specifications? I think you've already answered that probably 4 times.
Yeah, and I think I sent you a couple of exhibits of specifications just for your use, but
Yes.
to that, again, going back to Kevin, long ago, they were very different, even on the specifications when the architect listed the products, even on the legend itself, it will be a brand, let's say Rainbird, and then, or as equal. Well, that is no longer a thing. It is, here's what we want, here's the specified Rainbird, or whatever it is. There's no us equal. We don't, it's whatever specified, that's what we get. As we get pricing on, and that's what we bid.
Okay. And at the end, I've got a couple of your spec sheets on here, so we can look at those. I think you answered this too. You guys are like way ahead. You know, why would you make a change, you know, with completed specifications? And it just sounds like, go ahead.
Why will you make change complete?
From completed, yeah, you've already got a finished plan, you've got a signed plan. And let's say it's a private project, because it sounds like you're doing more of those anyway. Besides, let's say, value engineering, is there any other reasons that you would make a change to a different manufacturer?
No, not on the, I gotta tell you, construction, what we do, and the landscaping maintenance, 2 different things, very, very different. As a contractor, I will not change anything. I'll bid whatever specified for the architect. On the side of the maintenance side, I would definitely change things because I'm the end user, and I want to make sure that I have the same product, everything works together. It's easier for me, and I'm providing something better for the client. But in the construction portion of it, I will not change it.
Okay. What type of trainings give your office the best value? Or any?
Yeah, well, definitely for our field people, it's live training. It's very good for them to know the product, so they can, the biggest thing is if they don't know the product, they just install it. They might be installing the wrong. Simple things is the connections with the remote control valves, the wires and all that. If they don't understand the product or how it's supposed to be connected, or just a little thing that might affect it, when we install it and it's buried and now we have issues, it can cause a big problem, obviously, for us, labor-wise, and even for the client. But if they're trained on how to install it correctly, it's good for both the manufacturer and also us. We don't have to go back and fix anything, and your product, it doesn't seem like it's the problem. Like, as you know, every time there's a problem, everybody points to everywhere except us. So it's if it's something wrong with irrigation, it'll be, well, there's definitely the product. But if it could be a workmanship error. So that's where I see the value, and it's definitely live training for the labor guys, for the field guys. They cannot sit watching at a computer for more than 10 minutes. They definitely like the hands-on training.
Makes sense. Yes, that totally makes sense versus the virtual stuff. I think you
Yeah.
answered live trainings for sure.
Yeah.
Virtual.
Yeah,
That
again, the
sounds-
virtual training is more for the office, for the
Okay,
estimators, for the project managers to understand the different products, how their controllers work or whatever it is, so we can offer answers to clients when they ask about the product.
okay. Of course, that's what we want to do, everybody on this call. That's why Chris is laughing.
Yeah.
I can blame that on somebody, but I think I actually wrote it. So what are the best ways for us to proactively get you to move to all Rainbird? And to interrupt you, I think the one thing that you already talked about, if we do provide value, there might be some, some spots that we'll be able to do that if you know that that's what we're going to provide, hopefully that somebody else doesn't. I mean, the only example I could give, and I don't know if you've seen it, Carlos, I know Kevin has, would be our the sales trailer, so Ed brings that up and can do live trainings and everything else. And, that's a nice, for us at least, and we think for our customers, value added.
Yeah, another way that to answer or to ask a question is, what are we missing? We talk about how good Rainbird is all the time. We talk about this to our customers. Rainbird's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And why nobody would use it all the time. But the reality is we miss, right? Everybody misses here and there, and some miss more than others. So, whether it's our process or specific products, I mean, we got this massive tree campaign going on right now because we can't figure out what the best way to irrigate trees is. We have all these different ways, and it seems like people are changing. And, we were doing this with tree rings and subsurface, and now we're switching back to bubblers, which, seemingly goes back to the 80s. And it's like, where are we headed with this? So that's where I kind of asked maybe the broad stroke question of, what can Rainbird do better? There are things that are eating at you guys. It's like, man, if you just do this, it'd be very helpful.
Yeah, no, again, being very blunt, you guys got to understand that there's literally three components here. Got the architect that designs the whole thing and takes pretty much all the responsibility of it. And they have done all the calculations and everything. Then you get the contractor, the one that just builds it. And then you have the landscape maintenance company. Those are the three basic components. The main sources, again, the architect, the designer, they understand all the products. They want to know which product is better with what offers them for what pressure, like he says, different scenarios. If this is the scenario that I have on this project, what kind of controller will be able to communicate with these valves? What does the public agency want? Are they trying to control different sites from a remote control area? Or is it just a compass or whatever it is? They're the ones that have all the knowledge. As far as the contractor, the mentality of the contractor is very straightforward. We want to get the job done, completed, turn it over to maintenance. We wash our hands. If it's not working or whatever it is based on product itself, sorry, Kevin, you're the one that specified it. Here's the submittals. You specified this, you stumped it, we installed it, we're done. And then the landscape maintenance company takes it over from us on a walkthrough at the end. Valves are working fine, everything's irrigating properly, the plants are looking great, your establishment is good, sign off on it. And again, we're done, we're on to the next project. The place where you want to make that change, you can spend hours and days with me trying to convince me, and as much as I can love you to pieces, I would probably
Especially
not
Sylvia.
change anything, because the bottom line is the process of it has been changed a lot. Like Kevin says, there's a process of it. There's paperwork that you have to submit. It's not just oh, I want to change it to this because I like this product. You have to provide literally a packet of as equal product. Why are you changing it? Is it just a functionality that is not working, which again, we don't know. We don't know the specs and details of the product. We're more like, we will change it because the product is not available. But then again, there's so much paperwork that we have to submit for every component and backup and all that, that what we will get out of it, it's nothing, because if we try to change it, the first thing the owner or the general contractor asks is, all right, you're changing it for this, but what's the cost? What am I saving for this? And whatever savings we can get, they'll get it. As you know, irrigation components really don't, the price difference between one brand to the other one, it's not so huge for us to go through all this process. And the major part of it is that if we change it, even if the architect approves it and something goes wrong, there's more liability for us to they can say, well, it's the product that you guys changed. Could it be something else that is not working? I don't know, maybe a gopher ate something on the wires or whatever it is, but it's gonna be, you guys are the ones that suggested this change. We did approve it, but because we saw that it was same on documentation, but if something's wrong, you're responsible for it. So again, on the contractor's mind, just like your contractor developers that you talk about, they try to put in the least expensive thing. They just want to get the house done, the box shoe rooms and whatever they're made out of, and then they're gone. They sign off, they sell it to the client, and that's it. When we have private jobs, more like smaller clients, more that there's no architect specified, or that the architect is done, they just design the irrigation for the client and they're no longer part of the project, then we can change them. Then we can go, you know what, we rather use this Rainbird parts of it in here or this part over here, but they're smaller, they're for a house that if anything goes wrong, we can go back and pretty much change everything and with no issues. But because we deal with big corporate campuses, we don't like to change anything because, again, they have done all the homework, all the calculations of water usage and plant whatever water they're going to need, because they have to get the approval from the city and Willow and all that. So they have done all that work, and for us to come in and change it just because we're literally saving nothing, we don't. And then the specs again have changed a lot, where it says it has to be really something that a big reason why you're changing it, not just because we want to. Before it was much easier. When years ago I could just submit in the submittal, instead of it said Hunter, I will submit all Rainbird, the architect will stamp it and we were done. It had nothing, no backup, no nothing. This is what they like, we're done. But like he says, a few years ago, I'm gonna say probably 13 years ago, 15 years ago, all that changed. So that,
I got a couple, I think, questions for both of you, and I think that these are kind of related. I think, well, and I'll make a couple of comments first. I think the big takeaway from hearing both of you is that I think the bottom line, if we want to affect change at Rainbird and get more products specified, is we just need to have clear paths of communication with everybody. You know, like the contractor, the architect, the manufacturer, all need to kind of be in the same page. And not even that, you might even include a developer in there, or the business, or like the owner. So there's a lot of moving pieces. And so, you know, I think there's a lot of good points that I gather from both of you in how to be better at what we do and better partners for you. And with that said, I think Chris asked a similar question. You know, is there something that we can do better? But I think, like, one of the things I've been playing around, and I've even talked to some of the team members in this call of, is there something that we can do potentially that we can put together you know, where we can bring, or some type of event, maybe it's even an overnighter event of some type, or down, you know, combine a little bit of entertainment with education. But I think one of the things that I just been, because of what you're mentioning and what's been resonating with me, and I'm just thinking about it, is there some type of event where we can bring some key architects, some key contractors, potentially people that are in the supply chain, more on the distributor side, some of the key distributors, together, and begin to have more of a holistic approach to all of this, you know, because there's so many moving pieces, and sometimes one piece does not talk to the other. And with that said, is that something with that would add value to you guys? Is that something that you'd be interested in participating? Some type of event where we bring, you know, multiple facets of the business together?
Me, on my personal opinion, the priority that you're looking at as far as decision making is, number one is the landscape architect, irrigation consultant. Second one is the end user, your maintenance contractors, and then us, that contractor. Us, not more for changing things, but to kind of give our feedback to the architect and talking and say, look, we don't like working with this product because we encountered this issue when we installed this and that, or we like to put deep bubbler tubes on the trees rather than the ring things. Just it's more for feedback as far as the what we encounter on the field, and that what we communicate with the architect, and then us communicating with the maintenance companies is actually their take on how they get things from us, what they like, what they change, what products they will prefer. And again, it will trickle down everything back to Kevin. They're the main people you have to showcase your product,
Yeah,
and see what the benefits are of and how they work together. You guys offer more things. I mean, a very simple thing. Of all the products that I've seen in all this year, the only thing that stays in a legend, and I can almost look at every irrigation legend from wherever architect or irrigation consultant, is your quick coupler valves. There always seem to be Rainbird 33s or 44s. They change everything to other manufacturers, but why is the Rainbird quick coupler always there? And it's the architect that has it. Is it because it's the only product they know, or is it because they know that it's very reliable and there's nothing wrong with it, or there's no other better product? I think it goes back to that. If it's showing the architect, this is the best system, or this is how the components work better than all the other. You might get a better remote control valve from these guys, but look, we sometimes like to exchange things. If we get a Hunter remote control valve, we like to have it with these other heads because they work better this way. Or one manufacturer doesn't produce the battery remote control valve, these guys do. So having all that information and all that education with the architects, they have a bigger repertoire of things that they can specify in their projects. It's I don't know, showing them.
I know. I hear you. I think some of the you know, I've been in offices where both on the contractor side and or even, you know, talked to a couple of different architects, but it's been the you know, I think sometimes on the contractor side is, why the heck are they specifying that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And so, and also, or also on the architect side, like, why the heck are they deviating from the plan? This is a good deal. If they just would go there, there would be no issue. And so that's why I just think, I was thinking, is there, you know, could that bring value? Is that something that could be beneficial?
No, I think what Carlos said about products and things, I mean, we have a couple landscape contractors we'll call where like, we're talking about some of that stuff up in El Dorado Hills where you're planting on these huge slopes. Like, what is the best irrigation way? And not even what's the best product, what's the install? How do they install those slopes, right? Do you have guys trudging up and down those slopes? Do you want to trench up once and across? Where do you want the valves? I mean, there's just all these questions about how that system should actually be put together that we can make the, quote unquote, the calculations work, but how are the contractors really putting that in the field? That is a conversation that needs to be had and figured out how sometimes how that stuff happens and what's the best way to make that happen.
Yeah, no, I agree that, it's funny because it's sort of like the unique product would be like QF header. It's one of the products that is an easy like substitution, right? And it's faster install, blah, 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 curves and everything else. So that's something that is actually a fairly easy one to substitute. But Carlos, when you go back to the quick coupler, it's like, so how many years are you talking? Like 30 years, right? That's
20 something.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of years. And if everything had the same sort of like the 1800 head, that was for many years until some others started coming in. So anyway, we're at about an hour, but I just wanted to really thank you guys for being on. I think that it just helps a ton just to have a good overall feel directly from you guys instead of us just from each other. Not that we don't have our own background and everything else, but it's great getting it from people that, this is all you do. So thank you guys really for taking the time, and we'll make sure we do one of these every day.
Hopefully it
And
was
then
helpful.
one more thing for Ed, since he asked, as far as changing, when you get to the maintenance contractors, even if the architect has specified one product, it's already installed, they're done, they're maintaining it. That's where the big conversions happen. They start saying, well, let's, these valves are better. We're maintaining it, it's gonna save you water, they work better with this, where there's that controller. Then they change the head. So the first thing is that controller. Then they change the valves, and then they start changing the heads. And within a couple of years or whatever, they can even convince the owner to completely change all the products that were installed to the product of their liking. And they have more invest into that change, the maintenance company, than the contractor itself. And I'm talking about big contractor jobs. The other contractor that can definitely change it is the truck homes, the developments of housing. They can change it because they already have a budget, and if they think they can save money, or that is something that you guys are giving a credit on something, they will definitely change it. But if we're talking about corporate projects, your big projects around here in the Bay Area, the architect is the only one that can definitely make that decision, and there will be no substitution unless he approves it.
So that means we got to triple up on Kevin.
Yes.
Like I said, I mean, it's not us. It's necessarily, it's the municipality. I mean,
Yeah.
You guys know this as well. I mean, it's a constant battle. I know how tough it is to get them to change stuff. It's
That is for public,
challenge.
but I don't know how it is for corporates, like your Googles, your Facebooks, your whatever it is. Those are the ones that are, it's literally the architect or whatever maintenance company they're using. If their maintenance company on another campuses like to use this specific product, then that's the one the owner is gonna only approve, and the architect is basically hands tied to use that product. Again, the designer and the end user are the ones that pretty much have that saying at the end. As we just functionality on the field, that's the only thing that we
doing some Walmarts for a while, some years ago, and they actually provided the controllers and the stuff that they wanted. This is their standard,
Yeah.
and they provide them to the project because they wanted all of them to be the same.
Yeah, because they want a controller from their
Yeah, this.
central office or whatever it is, and all of them
I've
have
never
to
even
be.
heard of, but that's the one they wanted, so they could all
Yeah.
talk. Yeah.
So it is convincing them that your product, your controllers, first of all, can offer all that what the others offer. And it has to do a lot with that controller. They want that ease of having their phone and just going there and controlling wherever it is while watching the NBA championship.
On a split screen, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong. Well, thank you guys again. Go ahead and sign off at a soft stop, a little over an hour. So thank you.
Alright.
And
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
we owe you
Take
something.
your time.
It is, yeah.
Bye.
It was
Cool.
helpful.
Thank you.